This afternoon, House Speaker Mike Johnson, as we've been reporting, and several other Republicans will be touring Eagle Pass, Texas, amid the recent spike in immigration that has overwhelmed our southern border. About 302,000 crossings and encounters in December alone. For more on this, retired U.S. Border Patrol Chief Rodney Scott is with us. Chief, thanks for being here. I want to start with the renewed calls, though, to impeach Mayorkas at this time where we're seeing this crisis escalate. Is that the right move and strategy?
I believe it is the right move and strategies based on the fact that he's lied to Congress and he's refused to actually secure the border as required by federal law. However, I'm worried that this administration would just put in somebody else, another puppet. So I don't know what the real result would be, but there's got to be some type of accountability for the negligence that this guy shows America every single day.
What would you like to see at the southern border as this delegation visits today? They aren't going to see the massive crowds that we saw about a week ago in Eagle Pass. The fences are up, but it's empty there. What do they need to see to take back to Washington for some action?
Hopefully they've seen all the pictures that they need to. It's quite shocking that we need another photo op to convince some of these people that the border's in crisis. But last night, I know they spoke to the sector chief down there. I believe they got another briefing today from another sector chief. I want them to talk to the state and locals. I want them to talk to the local residents about how chaotic this is and how it is not the norm. Like this administration keeps trying to say this is just a normal migrant surge. It is not. And I want them to hear that, come back to Washington, D.C., and basically put a line in the sand that we need to secure our border to protect this country. Every administration prior to this has actually improved border security. This is the first one to ever back off and open the border intentionally. That has got to stop. I'd just like to see some Democrats get on board as well.
Right. And they've all made these visits to the border, but we haven't seen much come of it in terms of change, substantial change. I want to talk, though, about a point you just made, the impact on these local communities. And now we're seeing it spill over into other communities as migrants are bused and flown to other cities across the country. But locally, given your experience and your role as the chief of U.S. Border Patrol, what did you see impact these communities and the resources and the people who live in these towns?
So really, it's way beyond a border issue. So I want to make sure everybody knows that those pictures you're seeing, no one stays at the border. That's a transit area. But as they're going through those border communities, everything is magnified compared to what you're seeing in New York and Chicago and other places. For example, the population of Del Rio is only about 39,000 people, permanent residents. They're being overwhelmed. They can't get into their ER, the emergency rooms. They can't get into doctor's offices. The flights out of San Antonio are completely filled with illegal immigrants. You can barely get a standby seat. You can barely get a regular seat. It's economic. It's actually public safety because there are thousands of criminals blending in with this mass illegal immigration, even if many of them are just economic migrants. But please remember, nothing stays at the border. It's going to every town, city, and state across this country. And right now, we're letting the cartels control who and what enters our country instead of the U.S. government. Local residents along the border understand that, they see that, and they know that. But the rest of America needs to wake up to the threats that are coming to them.
Yeah, the burden is shared, but the brunt of it is on these border towns. In your opinion,
Correct.
Why are we seeing this surge? I know the reason is complex, but what do you think is the why?
Well, the real why, and please remember, I worked in the Biden administration. This isn't opinion. I sat in the meetings. I listened to the dialogue. They wanted these processing centers called welcoming centers. They campaigned on opening the borders and letting people into the country. That message was heard around the world, and then they ended detention policies and they ended remain in Mexico, which means the mass majority of these people get released into the country for hearings way down the road. We call that catch and release. That, more powerful than any presidential message or anything else, is the phone call from an illegal alien that made it into the U.S. back to his friends and families wherever he came from. There are thousands of those phone calls taking place right now as we speak. And until we end catch and release, this will continue. This administration could solve this with a policy change overnight.
Yeah, worse before better. Are you optimistic?
Unfortunately, I'm not optimistic. This administration campaigned on this. The people I spoke with in the administration while I was still chief were so locked in on this open borders, globalist mentality. They really don't believe we should have immigration laws or border security. I don't think this administration is going to waver. I think we're going to see a showdown in the Senate and the House about funding the government. And unless some Democrats wake up and realize that border security is more important than their political affiliation, we've got a rough road ahead.
Yeah, an issue that impacts every single American, no matter where you live and no matter what you think about it. Rodney Scott, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll see what comes of this.